corrupt and sexually perverted robots who do what they are told to keep their paycheck. I don't see us coming back from this, Clayton. I see everybody being overwhelmed, everybody being poisoned by this biotech, everybody being made sick by radiation, and these are probably the darkest days America has ever faced, because nobody trusts anybody. It's much like the French Revolution of the late 1700s, where the Jews corrupt the king by making him think he had more money than he had, and then when he called in, his loans, he was forced to steal the money he needed from the people. About that, and started to rebel, but it reached a point where everybody was fighting everybody else, and nobody was aware of who was operating all the puppet strings of this madness, and consequently half of the population of France was killed by the other half, and that's the situation that we now face in the United States.
Years ago, I pointed out that 50,000 Americans had been murdered by illegals. And I've also said, with this whole GMO thing and the vaccinations, which are the true weapons of mass destruction, we probably lost more people. And if you toss in abortion in that, we have lost more Americans here. More Americans have been killed by the medical systems, and they've been incarcerated by the legal system by making a plants illegal. Well, you can't have this plant. You can't have this plant's product. You can't have any of that. I wrote about a book in my book 45 years ago. I wrote that if we abolished all the laws against victimless crimes, we would have a much more perfect society. And folks, what you've got to realize, as James Forrestal said in a conversation to McCarthy, when McCarthy was trying to expose communism, but Roosevelt's best friends were communists, and his backers were communist Jews.
Yep.
So my God, I mean, it's just incredible here that he said McCarthy said something about him being stupid, and he said, no, the consistency is not the mark of stupidity. If they were just stupid, occasionally they'd make a mistake in our favor.
Right. That's right.
And they don't make any mistakes in our favor. This government is not being run for the benefit of the people. And you're right, they're running these illegals in here on us. And the Muslims in here. Now, I want to discuss that, because anytime you get in a conversation with some of the right wing, every time we get in a conversation, they go, "Well, yeah, the Jews. It ain't the Jews. It ain't the Jews. What about the Muslims? What about the Muslims?" Well, let's see. The Muslim that Obama bowed before, his family was Jewish. The Saudi Arabia the royal family were formed by a Jewish trader.
That's correct.
And so and let's see, if Muhammad was illiterate, he couldn't read or write, who wrote the Quran?
All of his Jewish advisors.
That's right.
Yep.
And originally, I mean, the Jews, they were the ones. There was a great movie made with Anthony Quinn, I believe, and they referred to the Muslims as religious rebels when they went to Ethiopia, where a Christian king was. And the king finally said, "No, I'm not persecuting these people. I'm not going to kill these people. They're not religious. They're not really rebels. They and we're actually closer to the Muslims. The Muslims don't believe Jesus is burning in hell. They say he was a messenger from God, But while the Jews are saying, oh no, he's burning in hell, you know, come on, guys. And if you're saying I'm a Judeo-Christian, you're basically saying, without any concept of what's real, that I'm a satanic Christian, thanks. But what's the oldest religion, John? Do you know what the oldest religion in the world is?
Sun worship.
Satanism.
Well, no, it's actually sun worship.
Well, that's probably true too. Yeah, you're actually correct about that, and that might be more accurate than.
But they've actually co-opted that now. The New World Order has taken over sun worship and set up their new capital in Astana, Kazakhstan. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of that place, but there's this whole New Age theme that has been draped around sun worship, and they're going to create a cult based on sun worship that is in fact controlled by the Jews, just as they created Christianity as a cult that was controlled by the Jews, and just as they created Islam that is a cult that was controlled by the Jews. So as much as we talk about stuff and itemize this atrocity and that deception, it's really a lot deeper than that. They are so far ahead of us now that we can't, it's very difficult to catch up to what they're doing. In fact, we have to guess past a certain point. And the new religion of the world is going to be sun worship, but it's going to be controlled by the same gang. The New Age Jews who are talking about ETs. I was telling somebody the other day that there's this conference, this new 9/11 conference set up by a couple of flunkies who are on Veterans Today, and they're going to at the same time address the ET. They're going to address both the cover-up of 9/11 and the ET issues. And for me, this is just another Jewish scam. I mean, they'll use any synonym at all to distract us from the point that we really need to be on, which is that Jews control every aspect of our lives, and I guess since they've taken all our money, now they feel that they can do away with us.
What is the answer here? Now, I attend church every Sunday. It's the Way Church. It's run and managed by the same people that do Timothy Bible College and the Little Red Schoolhouse, Dr. Jake Wade, who will be my guest on Thursday. And I have never felt comfortable in churches. From the time I was 14, or actually I think I got kicked out of Sunday school when I was about 8 for asking them, asking the wrong question, I should say. But I've never felt comfortable in it, and Jake refers to it, the churches, as religiosity, not the study of what Jesus said.
Now, you can't quibble with a lot of the things that Jesus said. He uttered the most important line in history: throw the money changes from the temple.
That's right.
And unfortunately, I think it was Voltaire had an even more trenchant quote than that, was that Jesus was the last real Christian. Because most of the Christians today, and I don't say all of them, but most of them, are total hypocrites, far more interested in money than they are in following the path of Jesus.
Voltaire, what century was he in, Voltaire?
15th, 16th, somewhere around there.
All right. I've got a quote by him up here. To learn who rules over you, simply find out who you are not allowed to criticize.
That's right. That kind of goes with something I learned, that the true measure of a person's integrity is how much he is opposed by the Jews.
Well, it couldn't. This whole thing. I know it was a Jewish company. I mean, the reason I had my accident is somebody tapped my phone right after the story broke in New York Times. That was in April. In February, I'm sorry, March. In March, I referred to 9/11 as an exaggerated case of Jewish lightning, and next month the NSA we were told that the NSA was tapping our phones, but the NSA didn't tap anybody's phones. They used Converse and Amdocs, two Jewish companies, to tap our phones. So they were able to arrange an accident for me.
Yeah, that's what they do.
And matter of fact, I've got a story linked up on my website from a guy that applied and worked for 2 years to get into the synagogue. You know, he was going to adopt Judaism like Sammy Davis Jr.
Oh, I was just thinking about this story.
And he went with them for 2 years, and then suddenly he went across the street to another synagogue, and the rabbi up there said, is there any strangers in here? You know, what about him? And pointed at the guy. And some of the people he'd been hanging out with for 2 years said, "Oh no, it's okay. He's all right. He's all right. He's all right." And they performed and talked about the Kol Nidri. Yeah. And he got so upset about that. He said it was like a prayer to Satan.
It is. It is. It's they take it every year on I forget what holiday it's on, Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah. I forget which one. But they make a big deal out of it too. They get music and everything with it, and it basically allows them to lie about everything that they do, and that their lies are forgiven on this basis of their phony history, that they've been persecuted everywhere and had to lie to get ahead. But they certainly developed that into an art form, and now that satanic art form has really taken over the whole world, but especially the United States, with its promotion of homosexuality and now pedophilia. You saw that thing where there's this new movement to make pedophilia legal because children are sexually deprived little adults, they say. And this is in keeping with the teachings of the Talmud that allows Jews to molest children under 9 years old, because supposedly they're not real adults and it won't harm them. And of course, anybody with any degree of education knows that when you molest a child, that act haunts them for the rest of their lives and seriously diminishes their life achievements and gives them nightmares for the rest of their lives. But that's Judaism for you. It's a nightmare for the rest of our lives.
And by the way, that starts when they're born. If they're born into a Jewish family, you got the rabbis going down on the babies. My God, you know, how sick is that?
It's beyond belief, that's for sure. It is. It's blood-curdling, and this is what's going to happen. We have to wake up to their threat. Everybody in the world. You know, we don't have to live with everybody in the world, but everybody in the world has to join forces on this one issue, because it's the chief threat to our continued existence. And right now the Jews have really, this is no exaggeration, they've taken over every life system that we have. They've taken over our movies, they've taken over our music, they've certainly taken over our politics, they have already stolen all of our money, and it's all based on the lies that they've invented to steal everything from people who are not on their team, not on their sick, perverted, totally destructive philosophy of the Talmud. And as I always like to say, my mantra about the Talmud is that the Talmud commands Jews to kill or enslave everyone in the world. They take an oath every year to lie about everything, and all of their holidays celebrate the slaughter of non-Jews. So how can you relate to somebody like that? I've also often said that you can either be a Jew or a human being, and you can't be both. And right now we have a lot of people who pretend to be human beings, even if they're not actual Jews, even if they're not actual followers of Judaism, they're still not human beings because they behave like Jews.
I've got one Jew on here on the chat room. He's on in two names at the same time. It's interesting. He must have a whole bank of computers to try to screw with me, and it don't work. You know, folks. You know, I mean, I've been threatened. Well, we know where you. We're going to come find you. Well, you know, it's real easy to find me, boys. I've got the events that I will be attending at the top of my page. So, you want me? Here I am. As a matter of fact, I was in New Mexico, and somebody came up to me in the bar and said, "You're Clay Douglas, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, I am. Yes, I am." And they said, "Well, you know, I recognize you right up because you put your picture in the magazine." And I said, "Well." He said, "Why do you do that?" And I said, "Well, it's my magazine. Why wouldn't I do that?" Well, there's people out there that don't like what you got to say. Well, bud, here I am. Here I am. You always get the first swing with me, man. You know, no problem. Oh no, not me, not me. No, I'm not mad. No, I'm okay. I'm okay. So these people out there are cowards. These people on the internet are nothing but cowards. The Jews that are on the internet talking about my people, well, one of them just said, let's see, they keep changing names. They said, you're having this guest on too often, you know, Brother Clay. I think you're having this guest on too often without offering the other viewpoint. Well, you want to offer a viewpoint? Call me, give me your name, give me your phone number, and I'll have you on my show, you Jewish prick.
My answer to that question is, for people who insist that we need to present this so-called fair and balanced opinion, is that when you look at mainstream media, not to mention most of the websites on the internet, there is no fair and balanced approach. The use of a Jew to begin with is strictly prohibited, and that's why I think I might have just said this, but it's worth repeating, that any news source that doesn't actually mention the three-letter word Jew is not to be trusted, because that three-letter word Jew is behind every scam and every disease and every false cure and every act of oppression that is going on in the world, and it has been for longer than we can comprehend.
Let me ask you this. Papa Bear, in my other room here, said, what about the Jews that study the Torah, not the Talmud?
It's only a difference in degrees as far as I'm concerned. It's the same kind of perversity. I mean, Leviticus and Deuteronomy are just horrendous examples of vicious perversion. My own favorite Old Testament quote is Deuteronomy 28:56, where supposedly God, Yahweh, the Jewish God, says that mothers will be forced to eat their own children if they don't obey God's holy law. That's been my favorite Old Testament quote for a long time. And I do allow for people to make the point that the New Testament is very different than the Old Testament. In fact, it's seemingly diametrically opposed to the Old Testament, where Jesus is made to utter lots of things that are very valuable for happy lives and peace of mind, do unto others, etc. But somehow that's all been lost in pretty much all the Christian denominations, as well as certainly as well as in Judaism. It never even appeared in Judaism that you really should treat other people like you want yourself to be treated. But that's been lost in most of the Christian denominations, as they try to regiment your mind into believing what they say and making all these promises that they can't keep. And as a result, you know, I have a member of my own family who is an evangelical Christian, and all she ever talks about is money.
Well, I've got the quote up on my web page that Satanists have infiltrated most, and when I say Satanists, I mean you could read that as Jews, because the Jews themselves have said they worship Satan, or Lucifer, which I think is a misnomer, but they worship Satan. You know, that's the god of this world, and they kind of agree with the Masons as Lucifer being the god of this world. But Satanists have infiltrated most religions and almost all churches. That is how you can tell if your church has sold out. The bigger the church, the less of God you feel there. Any church that talks about expanding its branches is in it for the money, period. And by the way, folks, Jake will be on my show on Thursday, and I made some comment about the 501c3 churches, and he said, well, I'm a 501c3. I said, you are? And he said, yeah. I wrote my own charter. I wrote it, and nothing in my charter says anything about me not being able to talk about the government or talk about politics.
Yeah.
So,
you know, I was always struck by the a certain passage in Exodus. It's around chapter 20 somewhere. It's been a long time since I looked at it, but I don't remember. But up to chapter 20 or so, the talk is all about how you're not supposed to have graven images. You're not supposed to build these massive cathedrals. And then around chapter 20, it all shifts to where you're supposed to bring all your Jews to the church, all your jewels to the church, all your riches to the church. And I'm thinking, one person didn't write this. It's like somebody wrote the first half and somebody else wrote the second half. And the person who wrote the second half pretty much disregarded everything that was written in the first half. And actually, you find that quite a bit in the Bible, where you'll be reading along, and then the tone will completely change. So I know a lot of people think this is unfair, but in my mind, I've kind of discarded the whole thing. As much as I do relate to a lot of the sayings who are that are ascribed to Jesus, the overall effect of it is to completely confuse people, and I mean, it's like a magic act where only the priest has the answer, and in order to get what you already possess, you have to obey what the preacher says, and to me that is a path to totalitarianism, so I reject it totally.
Well, you know what? Jesus did say that we could do what he did and more. He didn't say anything about having to adopt his version of the religion. He didn't say it. We got free will. We can do that. Yeah, and it's a matter of reaching the right. I think my brother, my real brother Jake Wade, you know, he agrees with me on my definition of love, which is your level of vibrational energy. What makes a difference between this table and this flesh? What's the difference in that? It's the rate of vibration of our atoms, and I believe God, the real God, he don't look nothing like Charlton Heston. God is what holds the atoms together. It's the intelligence that decides, you know, whether we're going to have stars, whether we're going to have earth, whether we're going to have water. And by the way, on Thursday, we'll be talking about the water that the Bible mentions. And what are we made of? What are we made of?
Yeah, H2O.
That's right. So we'll be talking about that on Thursday.
Sounds good. No, I relate to that very much. That line of Jesus is that he wants everybody to be greater than he was. I don't see too many people doing that, but I can't say I don't see anybody, because there are a lot of fighters out there who are trying to cut through the malarkey and point out what's really going on. But the vast majority of people, I was talking to somebody the other day, neighbors in fact, who when I start bringing up stuff about the Jews, they say, I don't care about this stuff. I just don't care. And I mean, there's no answer to people like that. The only thing you can do is stop talking to them, because they're admitting that their opinions don't really matter, and it's like they're not really telling the truth, but they're telling you a lie that they don't really care, and that's like saying you don't really care about your own life. And if that is your situation, then you're really sick.
Well, I think what's happening, we've been following this. It's been happening all along. So I think this show, because I have guests like you on, is getting the most accurate information out there.
Well, you're doing a good job, no question about that. How's Austin treating you these days?
Oh, well, Austin's great. I'm having a great time here. My little love affair didn't work out too well, but outside of that.
Well, I have a great quote about love. Among the other quotes, from one of my favorite cultural anthropologists, who said that in love is the most distortion of reality.
I like my level of vibrational energy better.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm old enough where I can give all that up because it hasn't worked out for me. I'm a consistent loser at that. So fortunately, I'm old enough to say, well, that's just the way it goes. I have more important things to do, and I love being free of the hassles. That's for sure.
Well, it's I would love to have it combined in one person. I'd love to have a lover. I'd love to have a lady. I'd love to have a friend. I'd love to have a companion. I'd love to have a partner. But to find all of that in one woman, I don't know if that's possible. And I am happy by myself. I'm happy here, and I'm of the age now, that you can't hold sex over me,
Right, me too.
Can't do it.
I heard a great variation of that the other day, where it's those four qualities are something that a man really needs: somebody to keep their home, somebody to be a true friend, somebody to be a good lover, and somebody to raise your children. And the line of it was, you just have to make sure that none of those four women know each other.
I may have to do a musical interlude afterwards, because the day my wife met my girlfriend.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, John Kaminski, we've got all three or four of your sites up.
Good, thank you, Clayton.
And all you got to do is right-click on your name, and you got the link on Blog Talk Radio. We got it all, and we'll have it up on YouTube. We'll have both segments of this up on YouTube and up on my website within the hour. And
okay, send me a link so I can send it around.
I will certainly do that.
Super.
Thanks
for being there, Clayton.
Thank you. I appreciate it. God bless you, and may He raise your level of vibrational energy.
I like the job he does on me right now. That's for sure.
Well, you're certainly one of my favorite guests, and I'll probably have you back next week. We got a pretty good lineup, folks. Just to let you know that my film, The True Face of Female, will be shown at Hills Cafe on Congress in Austin, and you can get copies at that meeting, and copies of my books at that meeting. And I'm working to help promote the Texas nationalist movement, because we need to secede. We need to secede from this, because we can't control it. We can't control. Nobody's accountable up there to us. And all three of my books are published by members of the Texas nationalist movement.